Hey Andrew, my name's Brett Bauer. I run the largest sauna detox group in the world on Facebook with over 42,000 members. And I've been following your work for a long time, and I really appreciate your personal integrity and dedication to helping people improve their health through low-cost methods. Your integrity and lack of selling out your desire to give people actual low-cost solutions, which aren't profitable, is something that I'm very much in alignment with and have a great deal of respect for. So thank you for that. Wanted to share with you a little bit of information on saunas that you may not be aware of. Since you kind of take a broad approach to wellness, which is the best way to do holistic wellness, but it does have its weaknesses of where somebody who's a specialist like myself can provide some extra information that's very, very helpful. So I wanted to reach out to you and share with you some information, specifically on infrared saunas and temperature. I just listened to your podcast. It was released on April, I think, 24th or 25th. Very informative, very useful. Something to consider with infrared saunas, and there's been some studies on it. Rhonda Patrick talks about this. I'm sure you follow her. With the studies that are done in Japan, it's called WAON, W-A-O-N therapy, where they're using infrared saunas. And as Rhonda admits, they're getting very, very similar results. The duration has to be increased. But what I like about it, if it is true, and I believe it is from my experience, that infrared saunas can get similar results, is that it's actionable to the majority of people. Since I have a Facebook group, I get a lot of feedback and I have a lot of engagement with different people. And the traditional hot rock saunas, even at 160 degrees, let alone the 175 to 200 that you're talking about, most people, that's above their tolerance level. It just seems overwhelming. They're like, oh my gosh, this is insanity. Whereas an infrared sauna, the compliance rate is incredibly high. And the studies do show that they're getting similar results with longer durations. And the thing to think about with infrared is this. Imagine you're standing out in the shade underneath the deck on a hot sunny day, and the air temperature is, say, 90 degrees. Well, you step out in the sun 2 inches away, the air temperature the actual air itself is not much difference in temperature, but you're getting massive amounts of infrared, which is heating you up. And so just measuring the air temperature is not a sufficient numerological mechanism to measure the actual effective temperature. Because the infrared, and this does vary with infrared saunas, that is one thing about infrared saunas is they're not all the same. Different ones have different wavelengths, different output, all this sort of thing. And I've done nothing but infrared saunas and detox and saunas for the last decade. So I'm considered the number one expert in the social media world on this topic of practical usage of infrared saunas. And here's an interesting fact that where we actually we've taken a detox protocol. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the Hubbard protocol, and it's the niacin sauna detox protocol, because toxins store in the fat cells. It's been around for over 60 years. There's a fair number of peer-reviewed, published journal articles on it. They use it on September 11th firefighters, oil spill cleanup workers, Gulf War veterans. It's a really, really good detox protocol because the toxins store in the fat cells, and the niacin releases. Talk about a low-cost detox method. This is why nobody talks about it, because niacin is super inexpensive. Releases the toxins in the fat cells, and then, 3 hours later, ideally, they didn't do this originally, but I found the studies on it and improved the detox protocol. 3 hours later, you get in the sauna, because that's how long it takes the niacin to release the toxins, and then you sweat out the toxins. Well, with the combination of niacin timing and switching to infrared saunas, which we've actually been able to reduce the sauna time, because they used to use traditional hot rock saunas because that's all that was available. And they used to have to do 4 to 5 hours a day in the sauna. And this is what they did for like 60 years. And then I found that infrared saunas supposedly detoxify more than traditional hot rock saunas, because people report more of an oily type sweat, which means it's fat soluble toxins rather than a watery sweat. And so we were actually able to, in the clinics we tried it in, to reduce the sauna time. To the clinician's surprise, the clinicians told me it would never work. And I'm like, well, can we just try it? Can we try a little less sauna time with an infrared sauna? And they're like, yeah, but it's not going to work. But I convinced them to try it. And now there are several clinics that are using infrared saunas and getting better results in shorter periods of time, because the infrared is penetrating the subcutaneous fat and releasing the toxins and increasing. This is the real question with infrared versus just if you just measure the air temperature. Like I mentioned earlier, you're not really measuring the entire thermal effects. And from the 42,000 people in my group, it was interesting. I switched people to infrared saunas and the niacinamide, and people reported much better results with this detox protocol. So the other thing is, when you add up the benefits of infrared light, in addition to the better thermal heat transfer, in addition to the improved detoxification, and most importantly, tolerance, people are willing to do it. And so people are more willing to do a 30-minute sauna session with an infrared sauna at 130 degrees than they are a traditional hot rock sauna, which is just too intolerant. Most people just aren't willing to do that. And so I wanted to send you this quick message just to, firstly, to reach out. So if you ever want to chat more about it or whatever, I'd be happy to do so. Like I said, this is all that I've done for a decade. And then secondly, for you to just, I think, have an approach of, instead of saying, firstly, to look at the Way-On therapy, look at the science of infrared saunas and how they're getting similar results with cardiovascular disease reduction, these sorts of things, which tells us that they are in fact raising their core temperature. In fact, what's interesting is at the hyperthermia clinics in Germany, they don't use just hot air. They actually use specific wavelengths of infrared, and they're using rectal thermometers, and they're very precise about it, and they find that they can actually raise core temperature better with infrared than they can with just heat. So I know you're an open-minded person, and I know you're open to learning new things, and so I wanted to share that information with you, so that you could look into that further. So that way you could follow your mission more so by expanding this into, at least I think at a minimum, saying, hey, there's some promise with infrared saunas. They may work as well. We don't have as much science. More of an approach like that, instead of being like, I think that would be a helpful perspective to share that will help more people, because infrared saunas, if you do Google trend search, everybody's getting into infrared saunas. And as you said in your podcast, any way to heat up the body will get these results, and infrared saunas do that quite effectively, and most importantly, actionably. So those are my thoughts. I hope that was helpful for you. And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, or at least just say, hey, I heard your message. Thanks for sending it out. That way I know you heard it. So that way I don't have to reach out to you anywhere else on Twitter or whatever. Thanks again for your work, and I look forward to hearing back from you.